Welcome. I'm your host, Henri Arslanian, and welcome to the special episode of the Future of Money podcast, where we go deep in some of the biggest ideas, trends, and developments we are seeing in the field of crypto, and hopefully empower you with this information and then let you make your own decision on what their impact can be on the future of money and the future of finance. Today, we have a very special episode where we're going to talk about the latest trends we're seeing in the field of crypto, quant trading, and market making. We're also going to cover a number of issues from like market infrastructure and the latency arms race to even the role of AI in quant models and risk management. So very interesting episode for all of you looking at kind of the future of crypto trading. This episode is powered in a partnership with Alchemy Family, which we'll talk about during the episode as well. And I'm very honored to be joined today by fellow Dubai resident Anthony Agoshkov, who's the co-founder of Marvel Capital. Anthony, great to have you on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
One fun fact about you, I think many people know you as the co-founder of Marvel Capital, is that obviously you're a very fit and healthy guy. You recently did 3,000 push-ups on your birthday.
On my birthday. It had to be a record. Yeah, I'm trying to kind of do records generally in everything that I do, and I thought the birthday is a perfect day for that, you know.
That's crazy. How much time did it take, by the way, the 3,000 push-ups?
The session was like 3.5 hours long, the whole thing. It's a run plus push-ups plus pull-ups, so it's a mixture.
And impressive.
But I was pretty tired by the end, to be honest.
Many people go just partying and drinking. You're there like working out. It puts my high intensity HIIT classes to shame with your 3,000 push-ups. But great to have you on board, Anthony. We have a lot of interesting topics to talk about. You know, it's been interesting when I get a lot of feedback from my listeners and the audience, and many people were asking me, Henri, can you do an episode about really what's happening at the cutting edge, for quant trading, the market making with all these different players. There's a lot of regulatory changes around the world. So I think you're the perfect guy to talk about it. But before we really deep dive on it, maybe can you share with our listeners, for those of our listeners who don't know you, a bit more about you, about Marvel Capital, and how you got into this world of crypto quant trading and what you're doing right now?
So my background stems from TradFi. I started my career in London in 2008, pretty much straight out of uni. I went to work for ICAP, which is the world's largest interdealer brokerage. I sat on various desks from fixed income, CDS, to equity derivatives, to swaps, to FX and EBS desks. So, I really had an opportunity to get exposure to a lot of, like different desks and different markets. So I was broke in that for a few years. Then I was hired by a private bank in Russia to manage a fixed income portfolio as a trader. Then there was another like quasi-sovereign institution that I worked for in Russia for a few years. In 2013, myself and a partner, we set up a licensed brokerage, which we sold to a large banking group in 2018. And that kind of coincided with the time when, if you remember, in 2017, there was this like ICO hype and everything was kind of, crazy around the market. And that was actually the first time I heard about Bitcoin. And, I started reading up on it and kind of learning more about it. I was super excited about this industry. So I thought, given, like my company is already kind of in the process of being sold, I thought that I would dedicate a lot of my time going forward, next couple of decades probably, in this new kind of exciting industry and this new exciting asset class. So what happened was initially I started out with, like with a venture project, which at the time used to be called Terminal Globo, which was like an attempt to build the Bloomberg of crypto. Because at the time, like nothing like that existed. Unfortunately, that didn't work very well. We kind of entered like crypto winter after we released the MVP in Dubai in 2018. Didn't manage to like raise enough assets, like enough funds to kind of, keep it going. So I decided to like not to focus on that anymore. But it gave us actually a lot of interesting insights into the market because, at the time we connected to a lot of different venues. It was more than 30. And we saw there was like so many arbitrage opportunities, like literally was money on the floor. So we started doing the kimchi trade for some time when it was actually, possible to do like legally and properly. We did a lot of other things like basis trade. I mean, the spreads were huge. There were like inefficiencies all around. So, we enjoyed those times and then, like on a professional, so this has grown into what's now called like Marvel Capital, which is effectively like a proprietary trading firm where, we do like HFT market making plus various types of statistical arbitrage mostly on centralized exchanges, even though like since recently we've been adding some DEXs as well. So that's the crypto part. I still have a business that does fixed income and equities trading, which runs kind of separately from Marvel. It's called Anagal Group. It's also Dubai based. It's a company set up in 2017, like audited, etc. That has a separate team. I'm not too much operationally involved in that because most of my kind of efforts go towards Marvel.
Yeah, it's like that. And when you fall into that crypto rabbit hole, it's very, very difficult to come out of it, right? So let's go. I really want to focus on the trading side. So let's jump right in. I mean, you mentioned the good old days of the kimchi trade and those good eras where was literally money on the floor. Maybe can you share with our audience, because you've been in it from the early days, can you maybe share with our audience how is crypto algo trading, for example, evolving over the years, right? How has it evolved from the early days when you started in 2017 and where we are, and how do you see it evolving over the next couple of years as the industry is changing?
So I kind of think that, we have seen a fascinating evolution into how these things have progressed, right? So algo, like in the crypto industry, is borrowing a lot of the techniques from the TradFi, and it is adapting them to the unique aspects of the digital assets, right? Because they're completely different. I mean, there are blockchains involved, there's finality, and all these things, right? And early crypto trading, I think, focused on like simple momentum and ARP, but over time, now a lot of new players and more institutionalized players came in, and liquidity deepened, and exchanges have matured, and institutional infrastructure has become much better. So with time, more complex strategies have emerged, and now I think there are a lot of teams that are doing some very sophisticated stuff around using AI, machine learning. I mean, there are companies out there that build their own data centers just to process their stuff, just to do their own calculations on their like algos. I mean, it actually is pretty advanced at this moment. So the space is very competitive, and I think it's going to get even more competitive, to be absolutely honest. Which kind of means that it poses a lot of threat, I think, to the smaller players, especially when the new guys come in and we start talking about, the latency arms race. Small guys are not going to have any chances against the large guys who are just able to throw money at the wall and, do stuff that other people just can't, right? But still, at this moment, we see a lot of opportunity out there, even for smaller players. So the market, I think, in my opinion, hasn't properly institutionalized yet. There is still not a lot of institutional liquidity in crypto as of today. Even though the infrastructure has matured a little bit, it's still far from what you would expect in a proper mature TradFi market.
So let's focus on that. Let's say on the low latency environment, right? And market infrastructure. Who do you think will be the players in this space? Do you expect the crypto native HFT firms will come and dominate this market? Or are we going to see the big HFT players that we have in the TradFi world that have the big wallets and the infrastructure and arguably some of the experience and the expertise as well, at least on TradFi, to come and dominate this world?
That is actually a really good question because the other day we kind of discussed that with my partner, and we actually think that the space is going to be like long-term dominated by crypto native firms, the ones that have been around for a while, and it would be very difficult for TradFi firms to kind of catch up with them. So I think the only way that the huge TradFi guys would kind of enter the space would be through like acquisitions and things like that. Through some form of consolidation. I mean, for example, I don't know, BlackRock or something coming in and saying, okay, we want to enter this space, like we want to build a business out of it. Let's see who is the best in the market, buy them, and then just develop that. They can afford to do that. So I think that would be like a route that these large institutions might pursue. But at the moment, I think the crypto native guys I think they're doing much better than the guys who are from TradFi and just entering the space.
Why do you think the crypto native firms are doing better than the TradFi firms coming in? Is it knowledge of the space? Is it knowledge of the uniqueness of crypto? Is it regulatory arbitrage? What do you think is giving them the edge?
So there is a lot to do with technical variations, right? So there is a lot of technicalities that exist in crypto that are unique and different to what you would see in TradFi market. So that's one, I guess. Then Regulation, yes, probably. If it's a small company, if it's nimble, it can get, set up in a lot of places quickly, etc. And, large corporations and companies just are not able to move at that kind of speed. So I think the smaller players are able to take advantage of that.
Very interesting. And then, when you look at we talk about a crypto, let's say quant trading, right? Obviously, you mentioned before you guys are doing a lot of stuff on the CeFi side. When you look at the DeFi side, like what are some of the opportunities you're seeing in the broader, let's say, arbitrage opportunities that you're seeing in CeFi as we continue, but also in DeFi and between both as well?
Yeah, so I wouldn't call myself an expert on DeFi, to be absolutely frank. However, we have recently built connectivity to some DeFi venues, and we see that there are actually a lot of opportunities are being just CeFi and DeFi. So we are kind of going that route as well, and we will be doing a little bit more in DeFi in the coming kind of months. The opportunities are there. There are also a lot of kind of technical difficulties to be faced and solved, but there's definitely a lot of opportunity out there, just generally. Because I mean, the market is still very nascent. It's still very fragmented. It's like all over the place. It's like you can have a protocol, I don't know, set up yesterday, and like in 2 weeks' time, it's going to have like a TVL of 1 billion, and there's going to be a lot of things packaged inside of that, which are not reflected anywhere else in the market, and you can arbit. Like, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that just goes through the fingers. Yeah.
This is why, when I just reflect about what you said, right? Like I can see in a market that is very developed, liquid, and deep, the big HFT firms or even the large crypto HFT firms can actually dominate, right? In a market like the one you mentioned, actually being smaller, nimble has advantages, right? Where they can move around
Absolutely.
quickly. But the problem there becomes also capacity, right? I mean, if there's a capacity of, you can make, you can trade for 20, 30 million dollars, that's not going to be interesting for the big HFT firms, right?
Yeah.
It's not worth it. I mean, do you believe that, let's say for the short, medium term, agility, nimbleness trumps basically the whole technology investment and low latency environment in a way?
I actually think that you have actually answered one of your questions, because if you think about it, for the really large institutions that have a lot of assets to allocate, the market is just not ready for their money, if you know what I mean, right? Just the size of it, there's just not enough liquidity. There's not enough, market participants. There's not enough depth to the market for them to actually participate. So it's actually one of the reasons it seems to me that they're kind of on the sidelines for the moment, and they're kind of holding out, until better times. I think that's what we're seeing. But still, crypto native companies, they keep developing their products, and we've seen a lot of interesting developments around custody and self-custody and off-exchange solutions, which kind of make people more comfortable around, holding assets in crypto, and large institutions that are still, I think, not fully knowledgeable on these things, just because they have their own thing to do, and they're not focusing on this specific industry.
Yeah. I mean, there's the opportunity cost for them is still is so much to be done. Ironically, in TradFi,
Exactly,
looking at
exactly.
crypto that doesn't make sense. I mean, you raise a good point as well, Anthony, when you talk about, let's say, custody, right? Because I can see large TradFi firms coming in when let's say, the custody solution is solved. And we could argue in certain extent when it comes to CeFi exchanges, it's solved. Yes, maybe not perfect, but it's by and large there. But I think you raise a very good point when it comes to, for example, DeFi. Becomes significantly more difficult. I have trouble seeing a large Wall Street or Chicago or Miami firm start doing self custody on their DeFi trading. I mean, it sounds to be improbable. I mean, what do you think is the one infrastructure change that is needed that would basically catalyze the entry of infrastructure players, in particular HFT players, for example, or quant firms?
I don't think there is one, to be honest. I think it's kind of a mixture of regulation, or quite frankly, absence of regulation, because the market is still, it hasn't found its ground, in the sense that a lot of people are doing things that they think are okay, but actually they're not. But it's not written anywhere that they're not. So we've seen some developments in the market in the past couple of weeks, which kind of affected a lot of like market makers and firms who were doing like token market making, etc. So these rules, they're just not written anywhere. There must be clarity, right? There isn't enough clarity at the moment. So it's still kind of developing. Travel rule has been introduced fairly recently. Mika, like all these things, they're developing literally as we speak, right? It's not like it's matured and everybody knows the rules of the game. So I think regulation bit is very important. That's one. And that I think stops a lot of huge guys from kind of entering it like this as well, because, they have risks associated with their main business, which they don't want sort of crypto to affect. Yeah. So that's one. Then in terms of technical infrastructure and solutions, so I think a lot of solutions are already there. Maybe they're not at the level where it kind of solves all the issues now. But I mean, there are custodians out there which are doing a great job, like Copper and Fireblocks and Kamenu and all of those. They all have their differences and, different setups, etc. But at the same time, I mean, it seems that their business is growing, which means that, these institutions are actually depositing funds, so that's all good. To be absolutely honest, I think if there will be a way of trying to find, this balance between self-custody and doing it legally and making sure that institutions can tap into this infrastructure, that would really be the key. But at the moment, I think there is still not enough kind of infrastructure and solutions out there.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think on that side, there's a lot of work to be done still on that front. You mentioned market makers. I'll be very keen to get what's your point of view on the crypto market making ecosystem right now. Do you believe the quality, the institutional setup, and the clarity around their activities are there are at the institutional level yet, or there's still a long way to go from that perspective?
Definitely a long way to go. I think this industry is, under-regulated in the sense that, there's a lot of like wash trading. I mean, that we see as well in the books. There's a lot of, churning up volumes just for the sake of doing volumes, etc. And, there's probably a lot of malpractice and like manipulation as well, especially around like small tokens or like the ones that get just, like newly issued, etc. So it's definitely under-regulated, but because the market is fragmented, it means that people trade on exchanges that that are licensed on some islands. So, and you can't really enforce things there in a way, right? So there's a lot of issues still, and I think they're not going to be solved anytime soon. It's been the same since pretty much 2017 that I entered the space in terms of how kind of wild west it is. I think it's still very much so.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was just reading, there was the first accusations from the U.S. government from U.S. authorities on wash trading and market manipulation against a number of. I mean, they call them market makers. I think the term is used a bit too broad, too generously, but it was very, very interesting. Actually, you're right. They sort of pump and dumps. I mean, the market manipulation, big time. But you think, can't we argue that in a market like crypto, right, where you have volatility, where liquidity is not always there, that the market makers play a very crucial role in addressing the liquidity concerns that exist in this nascent industry?
Of course, I mean, market makers, they're crucial in providing liquidity to what is still a relatively young and kind of volatile market. And, unlike traditional financial markets, crypto exchanges operate obviously 24/7 and globally, which creates significant liquidity challenges, especially for newer and kind of smaller coins. And, all these automated market making algorithms, they kind of help maintain spreads and, manage inventory risk. But the volatility is still kind of significant for many. But, like market makers have to be very much adaptive and kind of constantly refine their models. Like I've seen numerous times, because I speak to a lot of teams generally, and I've seen numerous times that something that worked yesterday stopped working today. And it's just, like you have to kind of keep going and keep nourishing your kind of algos and making sure that, you're up to speed with the developments and changes that the market is dictating effectively.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how this industry evolves. I think you're right. There's so much shady activity in some of these tokens as well, but let's see how it evolves. One more thing I want to ask you related to this topic a bit is on the broader quant side, the role that AI, machine learning, is playing in this space, right? Let's say not on the market making side, more on the algo trading side, right? How do you see from your perspective, how did advancements in technology, like in the field of AI and machine learning in particular, right, really have kind of shaped or impacted the algo trading space in the crypto algo trading space?
Actually, I can answer that in two parts. So I can answer that from the standpoint of business, and also I can answer that from the standpoint of algos. So, for example, specifically in business, and I think it happened with us as well. So we've actually had to let some people go that are junior just because, ChatGPT does a pretty good job at writing code that you can then kind of tweak and, so basically what it means is that you need less engineers to do the same thing. So that's one. And I think that's actually very important, right? Because now the distinction between a really good engineer and a poor engineer is just that much bigger, right? So now if you don't use AI in in code, you kind of lose out, like literally. So AI actually enhances any developer out there. So that's one. And then in terms of the algos themselves, so yeah, I mean, we are not particularly advanced on AI, even though we're kind of strongly looking into it. And I'm generally very interested in AI to see how we can apply it to what we're doing at the moment. But I know that some teams out there that are super advanced and they process huge data amounts to that AI can then self-teach and learn and all of that. But we're not that advanced. So it's very difficult to understand where all of this is going, just because we know that, for example, AI will change some industries. Like, for example, it's like self-driving cars. It's just a matter of time, but it will happen, right? Similarly, we could argue that, if we get AI to trade, then at some point there won't be any inefficiencies. But that doesn't sound particularly exciting for me, first of all. But secondly, I don't think that's coming anytime soon, to be absolutely honest with you. So there's still a lot of fragmentation. There's still a lot of inefficiency out there. But yeah, I would definitely say that people who don't kind of jump on this bandwagon of trying to leverage, AI and ML in what they're doing, specifically applied to quantitative trading, they're going to lose out, at the marathon level, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. I can definitely see that happening. When it comes to talent, for example, when you're looking for a good quant trader, for example, where are you finding are good places to find, hire uh, people who are good quant traders, or let's say because there's crypto traders and the crypto quant traders, right? How are you finding them? What do you find is the one tip you have for people on that side?
It's super difficult, Henry. Like, if I knew the definitive answer to that, I would be there all day long. So actually, to find really good people in the space who have like exact competencies that we need and that can kind of generate cash flow, and it's super difficult. I mean, what we use is, I think, like many, we employ, external recruiters. We have our own sort of in-house recruiters, and we see next year we'll be following some tournaments around quantitative trading to see if we can kind of get some rising stars from there. But yeah, generally it's very difficult because obviously there's a lot of talk, and we've had, for example, in the last maybe 4 months, we've had like two or three people coming in that on paper looked like Einsteins. I mean, actually Einsteins is dumb compared to them. Literally people with like patents in like quantitative mechanics, like whatever, and they're just not able to perform for some reason. Maybe they're very good at like in theory, etc., but in like practical application to what we do, not good. So we let them go. Yeah, but it's very difficult actually. I think in this industry, people is key. Obviously, I mean in any industry, people is key, right? Because organizations consist of people, exactly. Right? So there's nothing else. But specifically in quantitative trading, it's getting even harder now. Yeah.
And actually, I want to bring the topic of alchemy, the family, because obviously finding people and the network is so critical in every business, right? Can you maybe share with us, obviously, thank you for supporting education in crypto with the Alchemy Family, support for the show. We really appreciate it. Like, can you share more? What is Alchemy Family? What are you trying to do? And what benefit it can provide to people in the crypto ecosystem, and those are like what I call the crypto professionals, if you want, who are trying to connect with people that are like-minded and really focused and prioritizing basically getting value of such interactions.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So Alchemy Family is a private members club specifically targeting the audience of C-level and founder level reps from, HFT firms, proprietary trading firms, family offices that allocate into crypto, professional capital allocators, crypto asset managers, hedge funds, multi-managers, that kind of thing. So anything that basically touches crypto and algo from any angle. And, there's a kind of deep philosophy around alchemy, and the project is called Alchemy for a reason, and family also for a reason. So in alchemy there exist 165 alchemical elements, and basically the club membership is hard capped at 165 people. And the underlying philosophy is that when the right people kind of get together, you have this kind of magic, right? Because in alchemy there are four main elements, which is air, fire, water, and earth. And this fifth element, ether, is effectively the amalgamation of these four into something of a higher form, right? So that's the kind of the underlying philosophy. So in alchemy, similar to how it is in chemistry, like if you need, five elements for a chemical reaction and you have four, you have six, it doesn't work, just falls apart, nothing happens, right? So the idea is that when the right people come together, it actually opens doors to, kind of deeper form of collaboration, deeper conversations, and not just at professional level, but also at personal. So actually, alchemy is a lifestyle plus business club. So it's not just a business club, right? So I believe that business is personal. Unlike Americans who say nothing personal, just business. I hate that phrase completely. So business is personal to me, and because business is done by people. And the idea is to have this highly curated sort of community of professionals that can help each other grow, not just at professional level, but also at personal level, right? So, it's a platform for personal and professional growth. I would put it like this way, right? In one sentence. And there's a lot of sort of things that we're going to be doing that are supporting that vision. And, one of them is the event that we're preparing for now, which will be in November. So I'm super excited. And I think just generally this format is completely different to anything I've seen prior, right? I've been to a lot of events, obviously, in TradFi and in crypto, even the most exclusive ones, where you have to pay like quite a lot of money to get in. But still, to me, it's still very much surface level in the sense that, it ends up like drinking and, dining and all of that and nothing else really. So we're kind of trying to change that, right? We're trying to create an experience, actually a healthy experience and a transformative experience. That's why we call it like an immersive retreat, because, first of all, it's like no alcohol. Everybody has to be at the same level of consciousness. And then we're going to be doing some incredible practices that actually facilitate growth, like personal growth. Okay.
So this is the retreat you mentioned, right? This is I don't know how much you can share about our audience, but I love it. I think it's called Magnum Opus, I think, right?
Magnum Opus, yeah.
Can you share about that?
Opus,
What's the goal and what are you guys trying to do with that? Because I think it's quite interesting as a concept.
yeah, so Magnum Opus from Latin stands as the great deed or the great work, right? And the idea is that we want to bring people together into this retreat, which is going to be happening in the Seychelles, and it's only limited to like 50 people, and it's going to be a super transformative and immersive experience for like 4.5 days. And the idea is that by the end of the retreat, everybody will kind of know each other by by face, by name, by what they do, and how they can sort of add value to each other's lives, both on a professional and a personal level, right? Because my statistics basically shows that, on many events that I've been to, like even the token that I've been to, like recently in Singapore, right? So you end up with like 200 new Telegram chats. And then at some point, in 2 weeks' time, you don't remember 90% of those people, like how they look, like what you spoke about. So it's very much surface level relationship. So my philosophy is I'd rather have 20 real kind of quality human interactions and relationships with people that are, of my level, or like, that I like, and that are also interested, by the way, in kind of personal growth um, and business, because some people aren't, quite frankly. Some people don't care, to be absolutely honest. So, but I'm kind of trying to push the needle both at personal level and and business. So that's really what the club is about. And there are a lot of things outside of the retreat that members get as part of the membership. So yeah.
That's interesting. I think you're right. The example of every time I go to a crypto conference, I get all these like Telegram chats. Especially in crypto, people have their avatar. They don't use the real name. It's impossible to
Exactly.
actually keep track of.
All these NFTs and all these like weird things. Yeah.
It's always a problem. Ironically, it's very counterintuitive. I now give more business cards and I write about it because it connects with people. Well, let's think about the Alchemy Family Magnum Opus. If anybody of our listeners, I know we have a lot of traders, we have a lot of hedge funds, a lot of family offices that are listening to the show. If they're interested about the Alchemy Family or Magnum Opus, how can they find out more about it?
Sure. I mean, so, we have a website, obviously, where people can submit an application. It's www.alchemy.family. And then we have a lot of things in social media, LinkedIn, Telegram group, where we post all new announcements about the club and about the event and the participants, etc. So there's a lot of information on the net about us, and like anybody can submit an application. Yeah.
Awesome. So I think Alchemy, that family. One last question before I move to the fire round on that perspective, Anthony, is I know you're also based in Dubai. In the show, we've had the Dubai regulators. We've had actually all the regulators from ADGM to DIFC to Avara multiple times on the show. And you've actually been now in Dubai for a couple of years. Like, you're talking before about regulatory arbitrage at the beginning of the episode. What's your perspective on what's happening in Dubai and the UAE in crypto, and how do you think this is going to evolve? And if you think it's becoming one of the big hubs in the space globally?
To be absolutely frank, I think it already became the biggest hub in the world in terms of, I mean, just think about this, right? So the top three exchanges in the world, they're headquartered in UAE, and they're all on the way to, either they already have license or they're, getting one soon, right? So that's one. And I think UAE is doing a great job in that respect because, by kind of facilitating this platform for these exchanges and for other participants like HFTs and like prop shops. I mean, a lot of companies are now setting up in Dubai just for that reason, right? And also the tax regime and all of these other benefits. So I think it's a very good development, and I think UAE is a good place to do that, to be absolutely honest. And in some way, I feel like other countries are underestimating what the UAE is actually trying to achieve here. Because when all of these exchanges on all of this crypto business kind of migrates here, and it is migrating, the hedge funds are opening here, the crypto asset managers, like all of these activities, they're kind of flooding to Dubai now. It's actually getting so bad that like I haven't seen such traffic in Dubai for the last kind of couple of years. You know what I mean? It's like people are just flocking in, like from all over the world, right? And that's the result, right? So what they're doing is absolutely right, and I definitely support that. Um, and I think that will also bring a lot of clarity into the market because once these regulators are all like fully up and running, and once all these licenses have been issued, there definitely will be black and white, like rules of the game, etc. And I think UAE is a good platform for that.
Yeah, very interesting. I agree with you. Traffic levels have become quite bad on that, but it is what it's. I guess a sign of things working out. But you were one of the first ones here, I think, to your vision on that. I think has been quite interesting. So, Anthony, we're going to move on to the fire round question. I'm going to ask you quick questions. I need one or two word answers, and we're going to go through them pretty quickly here, and we can have this ding here to keep us honest on the timing side. Hope you're ready.
Yep.
Let's rock and roll. Anthony, what is the one thing that amazes you the most about the crypto industry?
The amount of degens.
Absolutely, it never ceases to continue. You're based in Dubai. What's your favorite thing to do in Dubai?
Driving, actually. The
Oh,
roads are great
really?
here. Driving. I like driving here. But not in Dubai, like going to Ras Al Khaimah, to the Serpentine, like all of those areas is
That's
nice.
actually a good point on that side. What is the one thing you think people get wrong about Dubai and the UAE?
To be honest, most of the people I talk to, they love UAE. So I have no idea why anybody would complain, except obviously the absence of, fresh air and a bit
Yeah.
um, and a bit hot like during the summer. But otherwise, I think it's yeah.
If what is the one crypto CEO that impresses you the most? The one crypto CEO that you find the most impressive?
I think Star from OKX. I think he's doing
Really?
an amazing job generally. I think he's at the forefront. He's really trying to, to take on the leading exchanges, and he's doing a very good job at it, to be absolutely honest. So his business has grown, I think, very significantly. Um, um, yeah, I mean, there are obviously a lot of CEOs out there that are doing an amazing job, but he just sprung to mind just randomly.
Interesting. They just even got their license here in Dubai as well. If there's a young university graduate comes to you and says, what is the one piece of advice you have for them to be a good quant trader?
Work hard, move the needle, and if you don't make money in 3 years, choose another job.
You have, what is the one quant manager, quant firm, you would love to have as an intern from even on TradFi? If there's one person in the quant industry you would love to hire, who would that person be?
XTX, somebody from XTX.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, they are doing pretty well, it seems. They've built a very good business. So it's actually one of the firms that we are aspiring to. I think they're very knowledgeable about what it is that they're doing, and they have an amazing team. So
I love it. You're a big guy who works out. I mean, you just did earlier. You did 3,000 push-ups on your birthday, which is crazy. What is the one workout or that you love to do? If you could do one kind of workout you can do for the rest of your life, what would it be?
it would be the Pravilo. I'm not sure if you know what that is, though.
No, what is Pravilo?
No, Pravilo. So it's like when I lived in London, there used to be like these studios, but they've opened now in Dubai as well. So actually, you're being hung by your like arms and legs, and you do like stretching, like that kind of thing. It's actually really, really good. So to be absolutely honest, I think like 3 years ago, I had a like massive protrusion, in my back, like lower back, and that thing just fixed me
Solved it.
completely. No other doctor was able to do anything, and this thing just solved it.
I'm going to give it one a try, actually. I heard about that, actually. Quick one. If you could go back in history, what is the one period of history you would love to live in?
The 1800s.
Really? Why is that?
The one reason I think it was good is because there was something called that we don't find very often now in men specifically called honor, right? So at that time, if you didn't have honor, you were like, challenged at a duel, right? These days, if somebody says something and does nothing about it, no duel. Sucks, right? So you have a lot of as a result. Previously, if you say something, you have to stand up for it. Otherwise, you go to a duel.
Yeah. Very good point, huh? The word, actually, like the being a man of your word. I love that. I love that. And to finish it off, Anton Agoshkov, the co-founder of Marvel Capital. This is a traditional question, whoever comes on my show. If you could have lunch or dinner with one person, dead or alive, lunch or dinner with one person, dead or alive, who would you have lunch or dinner with?
Jim Simmons.
Oh, wow. And why is that?
He's a great guy, and he said, like, I've actually watched a lot of his interviews on YouTube, and I read about him. I think he built like one of the most successful businesses in this space in general. He actually found the secret sauce, or like the secret formula, if you like. And just a lot of the stuff that he says really resonates with me. So yeah,
I can
definitely.
see that on that perspective. So Anthony, how can people find out more about you, Marvel Capital, and also the Alchemy family? How can they get in touch with you or find out more about what you guys are doing?
So I think the best route is the website and the social media, and also we're going to be sponsoring the AIM Summit, which is in Dubai. And following that, we're going to have like a few private dinners prior to the Magnum Opus. So we're going to be around, I think.
Awesome. Well, Anthony, thanks for being on the show today. It was really insightful. And I'm going to try that new workout as well. I think it's going to solve a lot of my back pains as well on that front. So thanks for being on the show. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you very much, Anthony.
All right,
Thank you
bye.
guys, everybody, for listening on this episode of the Future of Money podcast. Again, and thanks you guys for your support. I love it. And if you have any ideas of topics you want to discuss, you want me to talk about, cover in future episodes, feel free please to let us know in the comments. We're always there. And again, also a big thank you for all of you for the support of my latest kids book. Decoding Crypto, that has become really #1 new release in its category, guys. Thank you very much for that. It means a lot. All your support for all the educational content we've been doing now since 2016. Thank you very much, everybody, and see you guys all soon for another episode of the Future Money Podcast.